Welcome to the MMA Outsiders Podcast with Andrew Pearson and AJ Herrick.
Welcome to Midnight Mania.
Yeah, that's close enough.
Welcome to the MMA Outsiders Podcast. This is Andrew Pearson.
I'm AJ Herrick.
And we got a lot to talk about this weekend, surprisingly.
That happened this weekend.
Yeah, that happened this weekend. Jesus. A lot happened this weekend. A lot happened the week before the weekend. So let's dive right in. Let's start with the obvious. Dustin Poirier defeated Anthony Pettis.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
Dustin Poirier has never had a boring fight in my memory.
No.
Go back.
His game.
Yes. The oldest fight of Dustin Poirier I've seen was the Max Holloway fight. But the oldest fight I've seen where I started watching him fight was the Korean Zombie fight.
Yeah.
And it's just been one long string of just awesome fights, win or lose, up till now. This is the closest he's ever gotten to a title shot.
My favorite fight was when he beat the shit out of, what's his name? Fights out of Stockton. Trains with the Diaz brothers.
Who is that?
Oh, man. What's his name? You know, the guy that tries to do the DA stuff. We don't like him that much. What's his name?
Bobby Green.
Yes.
The reason that I don't like Bobby Green is because he kicked the guy in the nuts 3 times, and they ruled it a TKO. And I was like, what the... That was that fight for the troops a while back.
Yeah.
That was pretty awesome.
That was beautiful. I loved every moment because I've been waiting for somebody to knock him out. It's not the showboating I don't like. It's not. I don't mind that stuff, the talking shit during the fight. I just have this problem with him because it's a boring fight. It ends up being a boring fight because
every time he gets hit, he does this thing where oh, you didn't really hit me.
Right.
I feel like his main concern, not to hate on Bobby Green, but I feel like his main concern is looking cool. Looking tough.
Yeah.
Even after the Poirier knockout, when he got back up, he didn't want to look like he'd gotten punked or something. You know what I mean? Like he was just leaning casually on the ref as the decision was read. I'm cool, I'm good. Even though he just got knocked out. Yeah. I mean, he's a really good fighter, man. But
of course, he's a UFC fighter.
Yeah, but that was a good fight. This one was awesome too, man. When was the last time you saw a fight that bloody?
Not in a long time. Probably Diego Sanchez and was it Gilbert Melendez? Was that the one that was?
Yeah, that one.
That was like a bloodbath.
Awesome. The one that always comes to mind when I think of a bloodbath was Jim Miller versus Joe Lozon 1.
Oh, that was a bloodbath, dude. That was crazy.
That was insane.
Yeah.
I was just like, man, it looks like he killed a deer in the octagon. Was gutting it.
There was one fighter that used to get
blood.
so bloody. I don't know if you remember him, Spencer Fisher. Do you remember him?
No, before my time.
He had so much. He was responsible for that flying knee knockout of Matt Wyman. I don't know if you remember that.
I've probably seen the highlight.
So, yeah, you've seen it because it was one of those, holy shit. Because what happened was they stood up. Matt Wyman was what? Dropped his hands. And Spencer Fisher immediately capitalized, jumped, flying knee, and fell over Matt Wyman, knocked him out cold. Jumped, flying knee, and fell over him. That's how, So
was it kind of like that, the Anderson Silva running knee knockout or the Robbie Lawler?
No, this was
running
a
knee knockout. He just jumped into it.
Yeah, it was a leaping knee to the head, and he flipped over him. He had so much momentum, and then he just knocked him out cold. But Spencer Fisher, he fought the Canadian guy. I can't remember his name. He's a kickboxer. Sam Stout. He was responsible for
Hands of Stone. Stout.
Yeah, they had this. The first fight was pretty good considering Spencer Fisher had. It was 2 days notice, 3 days notice. He had ended up cutting weight and fighting Sam Stout, and then the second fight was really good. I think he won the second fight, and then Sam won the third fight, or something like that. But
I remember. I remember hearing about that. That was a legendary trilogy back in the day. So in that vein, you got Poirier's always been that kind of mid-level action fighter.
Yeah.
Right. And this one felt like he's always been on the cusp, but this one felt like he's a contender at lightweight.
Of course, yeah.
The fight with Eddie Alvarez was a classic. Should have gone his way. There's no way that that shouldn't have been a DQ win for Dustin Poirier, but the ruled it no contest.
That was crazy. Yeah, I was wondering about that. I'm just, what the fuck's going on with these new rules?
This one was another weird ending. Anthony Pettis is trying to do his thing in like the third round, which he had done several times before, and he always does it where like his back is taken, but he squirms out and turns into guard.
Well, yeah, he had that body triangle locked though.
Yeah, and I think when he tried to turn, Dustin Poirier was like not gonna let him. He got mount, but as he tried to turn, I think he popped a rib.
Yeah,
with the body triangle. And someone was saying, Case Hart's, a guy who does the video for MMA Mania, he's a wrestler. He was saying like that doesn't look like a submission, but it really hurts. Like that's an actual submission. They ruled it TKO.
You can submit somebody with a body triangle. That's something that's possible. From what I understand from the back though, it takes a little while. But I mean, you got to think you're compressing that person's like ribs and stomach, you know.
Well, I think when he got that particular angle, because he was really trying not to let him.
When you put all your weight, I mean, you got to think when you're putting all your weight and you have that locked up. I mean, it's tight, you know. So
yeah, it's like a boa constrictor, and boa constrictors work by like suffocating the breathing.
Yeah.
But there's like record of boa constrictors like snapping lizards' ribs.
Mm-hmm.
So if the squeeze is at the right angle, it can do a lot of damage. So I mean, Anthony Pettis taps out, but man, with Dustin Poirier, like to go through this many fights where it's just all action all the time. I mean, you're riding a razor, just. I mean, Pettis had his moments when at the end of that first round when they were swinging, Poirier was just going after him, man. He had them up against the fence and just lighting him up, and Pettis was swinging back. Pettis hit him with an uppercut, hit him with a couple overhands, and Poirier was just completely unfazed. And then like you had all the triangle attempts Anthony Pettis threw up. He hit that awesome sweep in the first round or second round. Man, this fight was. There's just so much going on. At one point, I was recapping it live, and I just wrote, "Holy shit!" And then I tried to work that in later. It was just like there was so much happening, and I don't know, man. I look forward anytime Dustin Poirier fights. He's must-see TV, as John Anik would say. He wants the winner of Eddie Alvarez versus Justin Gaethje. Man, if he gets Eddie Alvarez, that's a rematch of a fight we already knew was awesome. And if he gets Justin Gaethje, holy shit. That's going to be a badass fight.
That's going to be a really cool fight.
So it makes you wonder what's going to happen with lightweight next, because he could very well get the winner. Like, he deserves that fight. But then also, if it's Justin Gaethje, especially if he comes out of that fight the winner with Eddie Alvarez, you could also easily put him into a title shot, right?
Yeah.
So it's going to be really interesting what happens to lightweight.
He beats a former champion. I don't see why not.
Yeah, he beat a former champion. Yeah. He already beat a top 10 guy in Michael Johnson, and that was a fight of the year contender as well. So, regardless of what happens, either fight is must see. But let's talk about the lightweight division and its champion, Conor McGregor, over there in Ireland, getting a little crazy.
What was the other crazy thing he did? He was in
UFC Gdansk.
Yeah, just talking shit and saying some homophobic slurs, from what I understand.
So that's actually where it started, right? Because UFC Gdansk, Mark Goddard said sit down, and he's like, all right, because he was shouting from outside the cage during the Artem Lobov fight. That seems to be when he gets really riled up, is when his teammates are in there.
Of course.
And, yeah, of course, man. That was kind of the explanation or the excuse he gave after he threw that homophobic slur out. Was like, man, I was just trying to comfort a teammate. It's the bond between brothers and all that shit.
Yeah.
And then this one, John Kavanaugh kind of gave the same explanation when he appeared on like Irish TV, the 6 o'clock show or something like that. Was just like emotions are running high. But you got to think it's not just that, right? Like let's go over what happened for anyone who's been under a rock. Conor McGregor jumps over the cage after what he thought was a stoppage win. Apparently, the fight hadn't been officially stopped.
Right.
It looked like it should have been. Like, I didn't catch the whole fight. Mm-hmm. But from the combination of like clips I saw to try to put together what happened, McGregor thought the fight was over. He jumped in the cage, jumped on his teammate, just like congratulating him, just you know. And then Mark Goddard comes over and like tries to get him out of the cage, and like kind of put his hand in the center of McGregor's chest. McGregor took exception to that and like ran across the cage after him, was like shouting in his face, and shoved him. Mm-hmm. And then like just, out of control, they eject him from the cage. He walks around, tries to climb up again, and official like gets in his way and he slaps the guy.
That's hilarious.
Which, all of that is just completely, you can't do that, right?
Yeah,
if anyone else does that, they get something.
They would get
if it's Roy Nelson
suspended.
You get like a kind of a slap on the wrist suspension in Brazil. If it's Jason High, you get kicked out of the UFC.
Right. Well, there's a difference. So, I remember. So Brendan Schaub talked about this on a long time ago because he played. He likes to say he had a cup of coffee with the Buffalo Bills. Like he just he was there for the practice team. He wasn't there that long.
Oh,
but he talked about like special treatment to certain players. Like it was the way it was. So you would be in there. Training was rough, and people would be sometimes fall asleep during some of the more strategic meetings, like if you were talking about game plans and stuff with the chalkboard and everything. And if somebody was was like a superstar, quarterback, or whatever, what have you, team captain, whatever, what have you, it was more like, hey, wake up. But if somebody was not a starter and was just kind of a backup team member, and they did the same thing, probably get in trouble, maybe kicked off the team, yelled at a little bit harsher. So it's kind of like the same thing with Conor McGregor. He's the only superstar you have. So the only thing that happened to him was they took him off the December 30th card, which big fucking whoop.
Dude, was he even on that card, or were they just saying that to act like they did something?
I think it was the latter, because they were still negotiating that, because I think what was it, 600,000?
Wasn't in training camp, man. Like, look at the guy. Like, he's clearly drinking or whatever.
Yeah, he's drinking. And
he's not in training camp.
No, he's not in training camp. So I don't think that was a thing, but I think that they were still negotiating, because his problem was they were at 600,000 at the gate, 600,000. I think 600,000 at the gate, $600,000 dollars for pay-per-view. I think it wasn't that much money for him, so he was kind of negotiating that with
what, from McGregor.
Yeah, it wasn't that much money that they were going to probably try to pull in for that fight for him.
Oh no, man! Like, if you're McGregor and you just made $100 million, yeah. I mean, so yeah, that's the big question now is like, what is this like? How important, I guess, is this? Like, you see McGregor. I mean, like, he's a notable partier. There are, I mean, I don't think it's ever been confirmed anywhere, but like he could very well be on some powder. Yeah, I mean, stuff besides just the whiskey.
Yeah.
And like, if he is, it kind of explains a lot of this kind of erratic behavior. This is what we see from celebrities all the time, right? Mm-hmm. Like, how worried are we? Is this a John Jones type worried, or are we just, is it just a moment, like getting, as John Kavanaugh said, over emotional over a teammate's victory? Little column A, little column B.
I think it's a mixture, man, because you know how it is. Like, if you start, when you're in that party atmosphere, I mean, I know for myself, drinking whiskey kind of makes me a little bit more excited, and just from even looking out, like when I'm playing and stuff, you notice there's some people like to get a little carried away when they have a little bit too much to drink. But usually, specifically with whiskey, it makes people a little bit more erratic. Something about the spirits, man, like they make you a little bit, and only when you're, too much of it. If you sip on it, it's not that bad, but man, I got some stories, dude. But yeah, I mean, it just makes you erratic.
One of my favorite things was, during the Pettis Poirier fight, they were still playing that commercial with McGregor, where he's being sponsored by Budweiser.
Yeah,
and he's like, talking this inspirational, like, dream. If your dreams aren't big enough, they don't scare you, and like this like calm music. And someone put that soundtrack and voiceover over his behavior in the Bellator 187 cage. And it was like,
that's funny.
It was fantastic because it was just like him shoving a referee with this calm voice, like, be the guy, be the change in the world you want to see, or something like that. It was hilarious.
So, real quick, I want to talk about the co-main event. Matt
Brown versus Diego Sanchez.
Diego Sanchez, when he first started, I remember I watched the Ultimate Fighter finale, him against Kenny Florian, and he was the man. And back in the day, that was during the days of still the hard-headed sparring, all this other stuff.
School of Hard Knocks.
School of Hard Knocks, wasn't too far behind when, like, what was Ken Shamrock's?
Was it Lion's Den?
Lion's Den, all these hard. I mean, it was, dude.
Ken Shamrock held his form of discipline was like if someone messed up, they had to spar him for a couple rounds.
Yeah, I mean, I think nowadays it wouldn't be that big of a deal, but back then I think it was a little different.
I think that's one of the reasons Frank Shamrock left that gym.
Yeah, and he killed it. He was a monster too. So, yeah, Diego Sanchez. If you watch, I think it was a couple years ago. I can't remember what fight he was training for, but if you watch his, I think it was the Clay Guida fight that he was training for, the UFC program countdown before they actually have the fight.
Right.
He was suffering from a lot of nerve damage, so he would have to go and get
because he's broken his jaw before.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's not. He didn't break his jaw, but someone hit him really hard, and he said he couldn't feel his lower lip for like 6 months.
Yeah, he's got a lot of nerve damage throughout his whole body. I think just from getting pounded in the fucking head so many times and all those wars he's been in. But that was that's his style, is come forward, get punched in the face, and now you're starting to see it doesn't work like that anymore. His chin's gotten a lot weaker.
That's the crazy part, man. 34 fights, no one knocked him out.
Something like that, yeah. Nobody knocked him out, and I think that was the first time I've seen it. But did he get knocked out cold by Iaquinta?
Yep, Iaquinta, and then the first guy was Joe Lozon.
That's right.
And we'll talk about him in a second. But
yeah, it's crazy because you start seeing like the mindset of people, like how tough.
It's sad.
It doesn't matter about biology.
His superpower was always that insane chin, and like it's like watching Bane break Batman over his knee. You just like, oh man, like I don't want to see this like Samson like try to fight without his hair, without his superpowers, and just get wasted.
It sucks because it's a matter of time. If people don't change their styles, like they do that coming forward stuff, they don't.
He tried,
man.
Like he tried in this fight. Like you saw him, he was shooting desperately. I mean, I thought he
landed a body kick.
He should have gone after him after that body kick. Because Matt Brown did that thing where he like very visibly like winced and buckled.
Every time, man. Every time for that body kick from Matt Brown. I wonder what that is. Like, I really wonder.
He said after the fight, he's like, "Yeah, I got internal issues." I don't know, man. It's something. Maybe it's just his build. Like everyone's different. I had a teammate one time like. You couldn't punch him in the solar plexus and hurt him because the way his sternum was. Like,
interesting.
But Matt Brown's the other way. Like you kick him in the liver region, and it just hurts him more than it seems to hurt other people.
That's crazy. Yeah. Diego, I remember like he was the man for a while. He was undefeated for a while as well until he lost to Josh Koscheck. I remember that was a crazy fight. But. Yeah, he's just I think it's time, man. Like I heard a recent interview of his, and he's still, yeah, man. I just had to train. He was so enthusiastic, and it's kind of like listening to somebody that's just kind of desperately trying to convince himself.
What's it gonna take, man?
I don't know.
What's it gonna take for Diego Sanchez to hang up the gloves? I like he says no, I'm not gonna quit. I still got fight in me, because he's given all his entire adult life to this. I think that's all he knows. And
of course.
Even Matt Brown, man. Matt Brown said before this fight, "This is my last one. I'm going to retire." And we're like, "Hey, man, that's good. Go out while you still..." Because Matt Brown's kind of in the same boat. He had a legendary chin. Besides getting kicked in the body, like no one had knocked him out for a very long time. And then Jake Ellenberger laid him flat.
Yeah.
Donald Cerrone knocked him out cold. I mean, he's still there in terms of physical and technical ability.
Right.
But once that chin goes, man, it's just it's hard to see you coming back from that.
I think it was such a dramatic ending in this fight. I think that he kind of got, oh shit, I'm still a badass. It kind of gave him more courage to keep going.
That elbow, man, that elbow was awesome. He like cut him down with a scythe.
That was just straight brutality. There was no.
It was the perfect ending.
Technical anything. He just held his fucking head with his left hand and threw that elbow. It was the perfect ending. But Yeah, Matt DC said something on Twitter. I think he said something about.
He did, man. He's not gonna retire. Matt Brown's not gonna retire off this either. Neither man is, because if you win, you're like, I still got it in me. And he said after the fight, he's like, I'm gonna decide whether or not I've got a title run in me.
Right.
I don't think he's got a title run in him, man. But you gonna tell him that a fight like this is always gonna like whisper to him that he's seductively that he still got it.
I mean, he might fool everybody, but I think if you
he's only
same
fooling
thing with
himself,
Michael Bisping, man. Like, he's gonna fight Kelvin Gastelum.
Oh man,
in what, next week? This coming week?
3 weeks from it's a 3 week turnaround. The Rock was like congratulating him because it is like on Twitter. The Rock was saying, "Man, like people just don't understand that you want to get that thing back. That's a primal thing." Yeah, it is, man. Like you don't want to go out on a loss, and I think that's why, like Diego Sanchez, like you can't go out like that. You know what I mean? Like so you just keep fighting. But if you're Matt Brown, you have the perfect ending. You're like, oh, I still got some in the tank. I'm leaving. Yeah. You basically, if you retire on a win, it feels like you're leaving money on the table. Because you could fight again, you know what I mean? Like if you beat that guy, you could beat the next guy. Well, but if you retire off a loss, it's like, oh, that feels terrible. So it's tough, man. If it runs in your blood like that, that's tough. I hope Matt Brown does hang it up. Couldn't get a more perfect ending. But yeah, let's talk about Michael the Count Bisping turning around on 3 weeks' notice. Like it just feels like a recipe for bad things.
Well, I think. He might get lucky like he did against Luke Rockhold. Kelvin Gastelum's a really, really talented. It's actually, I think it's going to be a pretty good fight because they're both really, they both kind of try to stay in boxing range.
Dude, but the thing, Michael Bisping got knocked down twice by Dan Henderson, the 43-year-old Dan Henderson. And I know like that's a stylistic thing, but then he got knocked down by George St. Pierre. He got knocked out, got really lucky against Anderson Silva. Yeah, he's gotten knocked down in most of his previous, like I think the Luke Rockhold win was like the only time he hasn't gotten knocked down in his past like was a 5 or 6
or do
fights.
You think that was?
So I don't think it was a fluke because I think it was him taking advantage of a weakness that Luke Rockhold has that we didn't really realize because no one had been able to kind of push Luke Rockhold into boxing range and just throw hands at him.
Right.
Which that feels like that trilogy would have been the perfect turnaround fight. Like if you're Michael Bisping and you just lost to George St. Pierre, fight Luke Rockhold a third time, man. Like you, it seems like you.
I don't think Luke would have taken that fight.
Oh, I think he would have.
You think he would have?
Oh, he hates Bisping. He would love to put Bisping in his place, and instead he fights this young killer, Kelvin Gastelum, who is like everywhere Bisping is strong, like you said, boxing range. Kelvin Gastelum's so much younger and faster, and Kelvin Gastelum can knock your head into the second row.
Right.
I mean, he knocked out Tim Kennedy. He knocked out Vitor Belfort. His power clearly translates. He knocked Chris Weidman down. The only way Chris Weidman won that fight was by grappling him, man.
Right.
Is Bisping going to go in there and shoot a double?
No, he's not going to shoot a double.
It just it feels like that time that Machida got beat down by Luke Rockhold. That's the other thing. Michael Bisping. Yeah, I mean, no, it wasn't a knockout. It was he got it choked out, but he got knocked down,
damage, man.
and then GSP was elbowing the shit out of him.
He was doing pretty good in that fight. Like, I mean, he wasn't doing that bad.
He had his moments, but
some people had him winning. Some people had him winning the fight.
If it had gone out 5 rounds, maybe he would have won. But again, like that's not Kelvin Gastelum. Kelvin Gastelum, we know that dude can hit. You know what I mean? As Nick Diaz has said, that dude's a hitter.
Yeah, he's a hitter. Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be an exciting fight, though, I think. We'll see what happens. Maybe this will be the curtain call for him as well. Unfortunately, man, it's kind of like me. I'm watching all these people that I saw come up from, when I was in high school and middle school. Well, actually, I was high school and I started really watching it, and it's just kind of depressing because you're seeing, like, all these people retiring. I mean, GSP, when I first saw GSP, he was in his 20s, and he had just beaten Matt Hughes. Or he was on his way. He lost to Matt Hughes. Then he came back and beat him again. And Matt Hughes was the man at the time, dude. I remember that. So you seeing Michael Bisping, who was young, and he was undefeated for a long, long time. Rashad Evans was another one. He was the man. And then you had Diego Sanchez was the man for a long time, too. All these guys undefeated for a while. And, man, just the time just goes forward, and you see them getting older. And then all of a sudden you have this existential crisis of your own.
Kind of mirrors and parallels the fighters.
Yeah, it's just like shit.
Yeah, man. I mean, especially when you live and die by the sword, like some of these, not every fighter does that. Like GSP was always one of those guys that fought smarter. But like guys like Matt Brown,
but he was
Dustin
still
Poirier,
complaining of head problems.
Oh yeah,
too,
like anytime
like,
you're a fighter, man, like
you're gonna have problems.
You're gonna have problems, but even more so these guys who like go in there to go to war, like Dustin Poirier, like Anthony Pettis, like appreciate that shit because there's a huge hidden cost on the backside that you do not see, and
they're not getting paid a lot of money either.
Exactly, man. Like though, that's the flip side. That's the dirty secret. Like, are these guys getting paid enough to retire on? Most of them are not. Maybe Bisping could, but like. He probably that fight with GSP probably got more than $1 million for, so he could theoretically
Bisping's
retire.
good. Bisping's good. He drives a Maserati. He's good.
He should be okay, right?
He's okay. Well, he's okay because he's doing other things. He's got the title, but he's also doing movies. Doing other things. Exactly, he's doing UFC commentating. I mean, he's good.
So that's always like. You hate to see him take this fight on 3 weeks' notice, but at least if he walks away from the game, he's got stuff going on.
I think it's like this.
I think that helps fighters.
At the end of the day, they do have extra things, but those you can kind of separate the people. So you have people that are talented at what they do in the UFC, but they're not necessarily fighters at heart. Like they're probably people that kind of got into it. They probably weren't successful at other sports.
They're athletes that be turned into
fighters. It's kind of like their
Yeah.
plan B. Then you have people like him, even Connor. Like Connor is a fighter. Like he grew up fighting, and if you come from Ireland, you come from the area that he came from. That's something that's very common. Boxing is very popular out there. So there's a difference. So I think at the end of the day, Michael Bisping has that in him. He just likes fighting. Period.
I think that's Matt Brown too.
Yeah, Matt Brown too. And Diego too.
Right before Matt Brown went on his winning streak, he said that like a big, what took the weight off his shoulders was he had gone like 1-4. He had lost like 3 or 4 in a row, and he had actually gotten cut from the UFC. They told him he was done, and then they brought him back for another fight, and he was just like, man, what am I gonna do? And he realized he could do other shit.
Yeah,
he makes like workout equipment. He can make a living for his family another way. For him, I think it's always like it's different for everyone, but for him, when that took a weight off his shoulders, he went on a 7-fight win streak, got right to the top of the division, had a competitive fight with Robbie Lawler, and so I mean some fighters could walk away. That's why I say like Matt Brown should walk away. He could walk away. It's the perfect ending. And then other fighters, man, like this is their best and sometimes the only way they know of making a living. Yeah. And it's not like they get a pension. They don't get health insurance once they retire. You know what I mean? So
I think too, man, like it's kind of reminiscent of, we just interviewed John Fitch and, there's like this era of people that I remember. They were just hard, you know what I mean? They might have not won every single time, and they might have not had the most exciting fights.
A lot of these guys, like that we're talking about, Dustin Poirier, John Fitch, Matt Brown, they put together long winning streaks.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like these are guys who, when someone does that, especially when someone has the style of an action fighter, but even when they don't, man, like they're consistent in some area of their lives. Like they're in the gym all the time,
right?
Grinding, you know what I mean? Like when someone like that puts together a long winning streak, and all it takes is like a moment of losing focus, or you run up against the wrong opponent, or and you lose all that momentum. But I mean, unless you have like a superhuman chin, like Diego Sanchez was one of those guys too, man. Like when he got to the top, I think it was partly because like you couldn't knock the dude out for the longest time. Like he had a superhuman chin. And he fought for the title against BJ Penn, and didn't win that fight, but like he's the guy who got right to the top of the sport, and it's sad to see him still hanging around. Okay, so while we're on that note, talking about older fighters turning around, taking fights, Jose Aldo, broke this week. Frankie Edgar's out of his fight with injury. Jose Aldo's stepping in to fight Max Holloway again. Yeah. How do we see that one going?
It's hard because I don't ever want to count Jose Aldo out, but I do have a feeling it's gonna be in Max Holloway's favor.
Well, once we've seen it once, it feels like. Yeah, I mean, Jose Aldo still has shocking speed, still has shocking power. I feel like he has tools he didn't go to. A lot of people are saying, man, throw those leg kicks.
Yes, yeah, for sure. But I just, I don't know. It's I always say this. People always talk about like, Jose Aldo's probably gotten better and learned. It's like, yeah, dude, but so is Max Holloway. Like, that's, so what?
Yeah. We'll see if we see like a different approach from Jose Aldo, but
there has to be. You're not gonna.
You got to do something different, right?
Yeah, you're not gonna sit there and box with him, man. Like you're not. He's gonna tire out, like unless his cardio's not.
That's really the mountain that he has to climb, right? Like if he fights Max Holloway again, he's got to find some way to slow Max Holloway down because Max Holloway, once he gets rolling, he's like a freight train, like a boulder rolling downhill, man. Like he just gets going and faster and faster and the thing with Jose Aldo is, and I talked about this with Phil DeRue, I think it's physically, but it's also mentally. Like you start overloading his sensors. Like I think he cruises in a lot of his fights because he can, and I think because he feels like he has to. Like his gas tank's not that deep, especially now. I don't know, I don't know what I can attribute that to, but it's like I think he gets tired physically and mentally. Like you make him, like Max Holloway started having him make too many decisions. Like he threw a 4-punch combination, and like Jose Aldo's defense is really good, but a lot of it's automatic. And when you start making him have him make too many decisions late in the fight, I think like that's when he starts making mistakes. Like he slipped the first 2 punches, and then like he came right back up into the second 2, and that's how Max Holloway got that knockdown. So I don't know, man. Like that's one of those things. Like you got to say, unless Jose Aldo gets a stoppage, it's probably Max Holloway's fight to lose.
This is kind of where the talks of greatest of all time comes into play, because George St. Pierre said something recently that it's an illusion, that term.
Oh yeah, that's entirely like something the fans debate about. You know what I mean?
Right. So something Jose Aldo for the longest time was considered one of the top fighters of all time. Now, not so much. Now he's not really in the talks anymore. Well, when people talk about the greatest of all time, what are they talking about? Era? Are they talking about the time period?
They're talking about,
because that's not all time anymore.
We talked about this with Demetrius Johnson. Like is it talking about accomplishments? Is it talking about, like BJ Penn, probably the greatest lightweight of all time at this point?
Yeah, but is that all time though? Because he's getting his ass kicked now.
Right.
If somebody's if people are going to make a statement that is an eternal statement, then that has to live up to that statement. So the actions have to live up to that.
Your actions, yeah, but then I don't know, man. It's like look at Michael Jordan. Like at the end of his career, he wasn't the same player he was at the beginning.
That's what I'm saying. So why do people say the greatest of all time? Is it the greatest of all time compared to him in that era as compared to somebody else in their era? Okay, maybe, but it's still that's one of those things where it's hard to say that. They can probably be the best boxer of their time period. So Jose Aldo for a time was the best featherweight of his time. Yeah,
and there's always the eternal debate: who would win in their primes?
Yeah, of course. I mean, that was back in the day, the Ali Marciano thing. Marciano would win.
What was that, AJ?
Nothing. Marciano. Dude, how about the crazy? Did you hear about how Marciano passed away?
No.
So he was on a plane ride to give a speech, and it was like his birthday, and the plane crashed, and his head got.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy.
What a way to go.
Fucking jeez,
It's like almost poetic in its...
In a way, yeah.
Its finality.
The only person that could take his head off was God. Right?
Rest in peace, Rocky Marciano.
Yes.
But yeah, man, but credit to Max Holloway for taking this fight, man. Like, that's something that Conor McGregor never did. And I guess he moved on to the lightweight division, but like
Conor McGregor is very strategic. Conor McGregor's not. I don't think he's concerned with being one to He's more concerned about the money and the accomplishment and the legacy. I don't think he gives a fuck about whether or not he's like a real champ. Like the people talking about, he's like, I beat the champ. What else do you want? I can do whatever the fuck I want. He doesn't really care about public opinion or who he's going to fight next or if he's dodging anybody because he's having the time of his fucking life pushing referees and shit. So,
Well, that's the other thing with McGregor is like he's always gone forward. He's never taken a step back or never even like the only time that we saw him come close to taking a step back was when Nate Diaz beat his ass. So I mean, like it's hard. But the point is like it's hard to get motivated to fight a guy that you just knocked out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So credit to Max Holloway. He's on Twitter. He's like, it is what it is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, exactly. So that I'm wondering who would you have rather seen? I mean, who would be more deserving of because Jose Aldo just lost.
I know, man. Like I guess if we're gonna see it again, like I don't hate it, and I think that when I did the poll on one of my articles, Aldo was like the number one featherweight people wanted to see after like Tony Ferguson at lightweight because people always love super fights. I would have loved to see the guy Cub Swanson is scheduled to fight the T-City Brian Ortega.
That would have been good.
That would have been a great fight, but it doesn't have the name value of Jose Aldo, but that would have been a phenomenal fight, man. Brian Ortega on a long winning streak, action fighter, never ever in a boring fight either, against Max Holloway. That would have been awesome. That would have been fantastic. That would have been my vote. And then you had Cub Swanson, who's never gotten a title shot. So Jose Aldo was more competitive with Holloway, but like I don't know. I kind of wish Swanson would get a chance sooner or later. Like he's nearing the end of his career. Feels like it would have been like giving Bisping the title shot against Rockhold would have been like a kind of a lifetime achievement thing. But he is on a winning streak. I mean, you talk about he had a competitive fight with Artem Lobov, but before that he didn't knock him out, but he had a fight of the year contender with Doo Ho Choi. So I mean, he's out here knocking off young lions, and I don't know. Feels like you could have thrown Cub Swanson a bone.
I would have said Cub Swanson or even Ricardo Lamas. Cub Swanson or
Swanson.
Cub Swanson. Ooh. I would either say Cub Swanson. What's going on with my nose right now? Cub Swanson. There we go. Or Ricardo Lamas. Ricardo Lamas is on a 2-fight winning streak. He would have been decent. You don't think so? You want to see that second fight?
Man. Like, I don't know. Call me crazy, but like Ricardo Lamas already got his title shot in that division.
Yeah, that's true.
And I don't know, man. I'm a big Cub Swanson fan. When he went on the MMA Hour and he talked about that fight. He's like that was before I worked with a sports psychologist. I was carrying too much with me into the ring. I feel like whoever you throw Max Holloway in there, it's going to be an action fight. I don't know.
Cub Swanson would have been dope though. I think that would have been a really 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 good fight. Yeah, man, it's been a crazy week. I'm kind of sick of Conor McGregor.
Who isn't?
Yeah, like I'm just like he hasn't really been. We've had that fucking boxing match, and then like nothing else is going on. And Tyron Woodley's talking about like coming back 2017, whatever the fuck that means. I mean, it's getting close to the end, dude. Come on.
Yeah, man. I mean,
I'm just kind of like it's just. I think we should switch to other sports, man. I think we should go start doing lacrosse or some shit.
Well, here we go. How about grappling with slaps? Did you see the TKO in the most recent event?
Was it combat jiu-jitsu stuff?
Exactly. Yeah.
Was it Eddie Bravo Invitational?
It was Wagner Rocha slapped his way to a TKO win. Had someone in mount, just started slapping the shit out of him. And the Diaz brothers would have approved. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, so that's that new. I believe that's Eddie Bravo's thing. His combat jiu-jitsu. I don't think it's. I think it's separate from EBI, but I know he's doing that. Or he's kind of put that rule set together. So what it is you're doing jiu-jitsu, but you're having to put it in more realistic settings. So there's no stand-up strikes. It's only strikes when you're on the ground. So what that means is you got to be a little bit more defensive on your back if someone's on top of you. So, for instance, if if you ever noticed in like jiu-jitsu matches as opposed to like MMA matches, there's not a lot of closed guard shit going on. There's not a lot of there's all these weird positions that people are being put in. It kind of takes away from classical jiu-jitsu, which is
as
specifically
self-defense.
self-defense. Yeah, I mean they were, man. How crazy is that? The jiu-jitsu is just grappling by itself nowadays. But back probably 20 years ago, even 20 years plus, it was Vale Tudo, and they were using their jiu-jitsu as combat specifically, just that one style. You know, like Rickson Gracie was destroying people with just jiu-jitsu.
The sport has evolved since then, man. Like it was
crazy.
20 years ago Sunday. The first UFC 1 was held. That was 20 years ago Sunday. And I mean, look how far we come, man. Like it's been a wild ride. It's actually a sport now.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man. Like I can't say I wouldn't want to go back. You know what I mean? Like,
no,
I wouldn't want to go back in time. I think I think we have better fighters and better fights now than we ever have.
It's more of a sport nowadays, which is cool. It's sanctioned, sort of.
I mean, we got the professional Reebok fight kits. Shout out to Junior Albini, whose nickname is Baby. He went out there wearing what looked like a diaper.
That's hilarious.
In his fight with Andrei Arlovsky.
I thought they wouldn't do that anymore.
Baby.
I thought Dana White wouldn't let people do underwear type shit anymore.
After the Speedo
after Dennis Hallman.
After Dennis Hallman's Speedo.
Yeah. That was ugh.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think that it's kind of cool to watch some of those fights back in the day, like just have you seen Choke yet, the documentary?
No, that's the Gracie documentary, right?
It's Rickson's Gracie's, yeah. It's kind of cool to see how somebody can be such a specialist and just beat the shit out of other people using that one thing that they can't figure out, you know. But then you see like how great certain grapplers are just using their grappling, like Gary Tonin and Eddie Cummings and all these dudes. Who's the guy that does the weird shit? Like stands on his head and stuff.
Oh yeah, he's an actor too, isn't he? I know who you're talking about, but I can't remember his name.
Cornelius.
No, it's not Keenan Cornelius.
Yeah, Keenan Cornelius does that weird shit where he stands on his head and stuff. And
no, that's some other dude.
No, I swear he does. It's Keenan Cornelius, bro.
It's not Keenan. It's someone else. I know who you're talking about. That's why, like, for once, I know who it is, but I can't remember his name. He's like an Australian guy.
No, that's Kit Dale. Kit Dale. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about.
Kit Dale's the guy.
Kit Dale's the bald-headed guy.
Yeah, Kit Dale's the guy.
No,
who does that.
but no, it's no. God damn it! I know what I'm talking about. Promise. He has Donkey Guard. Donkey Guard is Keenan Cornelius.
It's not Keenan Cornelius, man. I promise.
How much do you want to bet?
I bet you $20 right now.
$20. All right. Keenan Cornelius did Donkey Guard. Is that what it's called?
Yeah. If your internet would work, I could look this shit up.
My internet does work.
Oh, okay. It's just, that's me being a dumbass. I don't have my Wi-Fi on. No, it's not Keenan Cornelius. I'm gonna look up Donkey Guard right now. Let's talk about while we're talking about weird shit. So first of all, I want to say I just want to put this out there. If Matt Brown's going to continue fighting, then I want to see him fight Carlos Condit. Like if for purely selfish reasons, if those guys are both keep fighting, Carlos Condit's not the one who like walked away from the game. We never got to see that. I want to see that. I want to see the battle of the hellbows. And it's also, you know, an older guy. Be perfect, in my opinion. Oscar De La Hoya called out Conor McGregor. All I have to say about that, Oscar De La Hoya, you're a hypocrite. Because here he was complaining that McGregor-Mayweather wasn't a real sport. All he was really doing was being a hater, being jealous, because he wants that money. But, you know, hey, at least it was Jeff Glover.
Damn it. Is that who it was?
Yeah, it was Jeff Glover, man. I told you.
But you didn't say, no.
I told you it was not Keenan. That was what you were betting.
No, what you said was...
Is created by Jeff Glover.
Oh, yeah, the Donkey Guard, right?
The Donkey Guard.
I'm not giving you $20, by the way. It's just not how it works.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
When you make a bet for $20.
We didn't shake on it. So there were no witnesses. We didn't shake on it. It wasn't a gentleman's agreement.
Hey, AJ.
So I'm a savage,
hey,
and
AJ.
I just savaged your ass. What?
AJ, screw you.
Hey, I'm not giving you $20.
Over here like Brendan Schaub promising stuff to people and not coming through.
Hey, it's my idol, bro.
Did Brendan Schaub ever come out with a dick pic for being wrong about Mayweather and McGregor?
No, I don't think so. Unless it was to his girlfriend.
Thank God.
So yeah.
That was a stupid ass bet.
That was weird, yeah.
Just like AJ's bet. Stupid ass bet.
Yeah, but I'm not giving you $20. Sorry. Anywho.
All right, so I'm trying to think what other weird stuff has happened.
It's probably all kinds of shit.
Recently.
I don't know.
So Clay Guida knocked out Joe Lozon. That was pretty weird.
How fucking crap. When's the last time Clay Guida won?
So while we're talking about like a lot of old guard, now Clay Guida's been winning, man. But when's the last time he knocked someone out? That was like more than 10 years ago, longer ago than GSP. So, yeah. So yeah, and you know what's crazy is like it's like almost looked like he'd forgotten how to finish a fight because he did that. He just went to like his usual like grounded pound, which is kind of like a more grinding style, and he finally like kind of strung together long enough combinations with the ref was like, okay, Joe Lozon clearly out of it. Here, that's another guy, man. Like I feel like if you're Joe Lozon, you've gone win loss for so many years, and then now you take a couple TKO losses in a row. Joe Lozon, Diego Sanchez. I feel like those guys should. I don't know, man. Like if you can make a living doing something other than getting punched in the head, and you're getting knocked out like that. It's just one of those. Every fighter has to make his own call, his own decision, but. It might help to have a Joe Rogan in your life to shout at you. I think you'd be surprised, bro.
Can I say, just want to point this out, Clay Guida was the Strikeforce lightweight champion at one point in time.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm. Wow, I forgot about that shit. Didn't he lose to Gilbert Melendez back in the day?
Sure did. It was a split decision, too.
Wow. Man, yeah, so Clay Guida is an OG. And so after the fight, he gets on the mic and he's like, a lot of people might not know this, but I think this is the last fight in my contract. And then he gets the crowd to chant his name. Dana White will give him a new contract. But like the reports I heard was that I don't think it was his last fight.
Ooh.
he had that doubt. Like he's like, I think it's the last fight in my contract. It's like, what? I guess you just if you're Clay Guida and you've been in the fight for this long, like it all just runs together. Maybe you just don't remember how many fights you had left on your contract. And he said he doesn't want to fight anywhere else, so it's not like he's going to try to negotiate or jump ship to Bellator.
Why not? Why would?
Right?
Yeah, fuck that.
Like, go at this point in your career, if you're an action fighter, go with whoever pays you the most money. Oh, that was the other weird thing. Speaking of Bellator, let's talk about this heavyweight tournament. Do you see that shit?
I did not.
So Bellator announced a heavyweight tournament that has Chael Sonnen, former middleweight Chael Sonnen, light heavyweight champion Ryan Bader.
Okay.
Of course, Fedor Emelianenko.
All right.
Frank Mir.
Matt Mitrione.
I think Matt Mitrione. And Frank Mir last seen in the dark place in the Upside Down after Mark Hunt knocked him out. So the Bellator heavyweight tournament seems like a compendium of just like broken heroes, and it feels like the Suicide Squad of MMA. Can Bellator go to? Can they? Is there such a thing as going full Bellator?
Man, I don't know what the fuck's going on in Bellator, man. I think since Kimbo is gone and Ken Shamrock's fucking steroid ass is gone too. They're kind of running out of super fights. Mostly bring Chemo back.
So 2018 Heavyweight Grand Prix. So that's something we'll get to talk about. Someone suggested Gegard Mousasi wins as an alternate, which seems like the most likely scenario.
Wait, so is this going to be for the heavyweight championship, or is this going to be for like a title shot? Or
no, it's a heavyweight champ. Well, they don't have a heavyweight champion right now.
Oh,
so, yeah.
Shit.
It is. It's Fedor Emelianenko, Frank Mir, Matt Mitrione, Roy Nelson, Quentin Jackson, Muhammad Lawal, and Chael Sonnen. Yeah. How can this possibly go wrong?
I'm going to say Chael Sonnen's going to win. I'm just kidding. I don't really know.
If Chael Sonnen wins, man.
Wait, is Tito in this?
Someone was suggesting, another podcast was suggesting, shout out to the Co-Main Event podcast, Tito Ortiz is going to win via coming out of retirement and fighting Chael Sonnen in the final somehow. Do you think
it would, I wish it was like a Royal Rumble for the heavyweight championship. That'd be kind of cool.
A Royal Rumble?
Or like a Battle Royale where they all kind of, they have like 4 guys in the ring, and then one guy gets knocked out, and then somebody comes in and replaces him.
That's
until there's one person standing.
I've been listening to a podcast about Jack Johnson, the first black heavyweight champion.
Oh, no, I'm just kidding. You know he's from Galveston, right?
Yeah. Born in Galveston. He fought in a battle royale early in his career. Back then, it was a super racist thing where white guys would pay black guys a little bit of money to like all fight each other at the same time.
That dude was so badass.
Jack Johnson, yeah, man. Hey, there's another guy. If you could have an all-time list of like heavyweight champions, you could have a time machine heavyweight Grand Prix, Bellator style, with all the old guys except in their primes. I think Jack Johnson might be in that shit, except for the fact that he was 180 pounds at one point fighting for the heavyweight title.
He's big though, dude.
He was a tall guy.
So big.
I would love to see him fight John Jones in like a no ground grappling, just open rules on the feet.
Just boxing?
No, boxing with like knees and clinch.
So boxing.
No, but with elbows and shit.
But like real boxing.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I would love to see that shit.
Like pugilism, like old school. What about John L. Sullivan? You know, that was one of the big controversies back in the day. Like John L. Sullivan wouldn't fight him.
Oh yeah, John L. Sullivan was.
It was hard for him to get. It was hard for him to get an integrated match. Even James Corbin wouldn't fight him.
Yeah.
For a long time.
No, they drew what was called the color line.
Yeah.
Wouldn't fight a black heavyweight boxer, and he just beat the shit out of everyone.
Everybody.
And so they would fight white boxers, but just not for the heavyweight title.
Right.
Because they didn't want to risk losing it to a black dude.
Right.
And then he won that shit.
Yep.
Because someone finally let him fight for it,
Yep.
and then they had the comeback fight with Jim Jeffries.
Yes.
And
dude, you want to talk about a fucking tank?
Yeah, man, he was a tank.
Holy shit.
But he couldn't touch Jack Johnson when they fought, man. Like, and afterwards they were like, because he had retired, you know, he had gone away to his farm after there was no more white fighters left for him to fight. Mm-hmm. And when he came back, man, people thought he was going to win that shit because he was so unstoppable in his prime. But he said afterwards, just like, man, I could never have beat Jack Johnson.
Jack Johnson was just a monster back in the day. But James Corbin, man, Jim Jeffries, man, you look at his body.
He was your kind of a workout dude. Talking like the Bud Jeffries build.
He was just fucking, and his legs, dude, were just like, I mean, back in the day, considering probably most people didn't lift weights like they do nowadays.
He had that Junior Albini build.
Yeah,
just
dude.
like tank legs.
Yeah, like it's just it always
without
floors
the diaper
me.
though.
Yeah, right. It always floors me when I see old school competitors and people that are just freaks genetically, pre-steroids, and some dudes that are just jacked. Like even Hackenschmidt when he was young,
kind of like Yoel Romero.
Yeah, like have you seen any pictures of Hackenschmidt when he was like in his 20s?
Yeah, I have.
He was
old school wrestler,
fucking
professional
tank.
wrestler when it was like supposedly real.
Right,
Gene Hackenschmidt.
Yeah.
So yeah, old school catch wrestler. Yeah, he was huge.
Huge,
but
man.
you know what? He got beat too. He got beat by like 185-pound American
Gotch, man.
Frank Gotch.
Beat this shit twice, I think. If I'm not mistaken, he
that
lost him twice.
It was twice.
Yeah,
that was back when wrestling.
The only thing
was
is
real.
the second time when he fought him, he kind of just did it way past his prime, kind of thing. He was kind of overweight, wasn't really in shape for that last match, and the last match was kind of a fluke. But the first match wasn't. It was kind of a complaint of being a boring match. The second fight, because George comes in all fucking bloated and in his 40s. You know?
I guess he was injured, but but yeah. So how do we get talking about Jack Johnson and Frank Gotch?
I don't know. You know, it was so.
Well, that's what happens. You start talking about Bellator heavyweights who are just that old, and you start going further and further back. But yeah, man. So a lot of weird stuff happened this weekend. And next weekend we have a super exciting event: Fabricio Verdum versus Tybura. Just super pumped about this one. A lot of hype around this fight. It was, yeah, I can't even.
I'm so bored right now.
It's one of those fights. First of all, Mark Hunt should have been in the main event, but he went on public record saying he has issues with some brain trauma, so they pulled him from the fight. Also happens to be suing the UFC. Replaced him with Fabricio Verdum.
Yeah.
He of the Matacone fame. Yeah, man, everyone's super excited about this. I hope someone somewhere is. But yeah, man. So, come back next weekend and you'll get to hear us talk about that fight. And who knows? Maybe by that time we'll have Dustin Poirier on the podcast.
That'd be dope.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Either that or King Mo, man. That would be awesome, too.
Oh, yeah, we got to talk to King Mo about this new heavyweight Grand Prix. I'm going to talk about what he thinks about that. No, you know who should come out of retirement for that one? It's Crow Cop.
Is Quentin Jackson retired?
No, Quentin Jackson's going to be in this thing, man.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. Quentin Jackson was talking recently about how his marriage to his subservient Japanese wife started going south after she stopped drawing him baths and shit.
Oh. I didn't know he was a samurai.
He definitely thinks he is, man. Well, that's about it, I think, for the MMA Outsiders podcast this week. Come back next week for an even more exciting time. You can find me on Twitter at Vorpality, VORPALITY, and on Facebook under the same name. I write the Midnight Mania series at MMA Mania, and you can always hit me up. If you want to sponsor the podcast, feel free to hit me up on Twitter or Facebook, or talk to AJ at...
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter, AJ Herrick. My handle is AJAYHERRICK. Instagram, you can find me at the same name. Also on Facebook, just send me a friend request or shoot me a message. I'm pretty friendly. Sometimes, not really all the time.
Are you that friendly?
Dude, that was one of the things I was talking to my friend about, or my bandmate. He's really good at talking to people, and I'm just like, I don't know if I'm just too laid back and I just don't give a fuck, or I'm just not the friendliest person. But either way, it doesn't matter. Just shoot me a line if you have any questions. And we are also looking for sponsors. So if anybody's interested in sponsoring this podcast, just let us know. We are currently looking for sponsors of all different brands and different products and entrepreneurial ships.
I mean, we're specifically kind of looking for sponsors like Dude Wipes or Condom Depot.
Yes, stuff like that.
Definitely, like that would be
demographic.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That would be perfect for us and for our listeners.
Exactly. So thank you again. It's been the MMA Outsiders podcast. We will see you next week.
Bye.